Welcome to the Boyz to Nerdz season finale, The Winds of Winter. We've seen 10 episodes now. It's over. I'm actually personally glad it's over. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying that, but Kevin Lewis here, Steve Hollings here. We don't have Gerald with us, but Boyz to Nerdz official review of Game of Thrones, The Winds of Winter. How are you today, Steve?
I'm doing well.
Did you have enough time to recover?
Yeah, as soon as that was done, I started watching Boardwalk Empire again, so that kind of helped me recoup.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard it's good. But today's focus is on Game of Thrones primarily. Now, we've been here every single week coming up to this point. Overall, we'll focus on the episode, but overall, where do you rank this season in comparison to others?
I don't know. I would probably put this as at least third best, if not second best.
I would say it's either the second best or I like season 1. I like season 4. This season was awesome. I'm not saying the season was bad by any means. Like it was non-stop action, few filler episodes, but most of the time they were advancing plot. And we're at the point, which I've said 9 billion times, where we start to need to wrap up some of these storylines. I'll be that guy that's going to piss a lot of people off. Didn't necessarily like how they wrapped up a lot of the storylines at all.
Well, I think they took the easy way out and just, let's just kill everybody.
And I think a lot of the people who watch this are going to be like, really, Kevin, you're going to bitch about this episode. This episode was awesome. And I don't disagree. This episode was good. But it's very similar to how fireworks work, okay? As a person who enjoys fireworks, it's a beautiful light that distracts you, and you go, ooh, and that's pretty, and all that kind of stuff. But you don't really boil down to what it really is, okay? You're so distracted by the lights and everything that you're not just sitting there being like, you know what? This is the simplest form of entertainment. I am literally being oohed and awed by flashy lights. And I think that's kind of what this episode was. Let's just start with the whole Cersei thing. Reactions.
By what part do you mean?
Just with the whole, how they filmed it to where she was in her little hovel, I'll say, her little room, staring out into Magar's keep, and just having all of her enemies be collected into one room, and then inevitably blowing the bitch up.
Well, this is something that we talked about last week.
I predicted this and Tommen's death 8 episodes ago.
Yeah, so I think it was something that I was kind of expecting to happen. It's almost like Cersei had this plan, but then at the same time it was just more of a convenience, sort of a thing. I don't know. I mean, it killed off a lot of characters.
Every character. Not a lot. Every character.
It killed off a lot of characters in King's Landing. Basically every character there. And then it even had effects that we saw after for Tommen. King's Landing now has a definition as to why it's called King's Landing.
Yeah, Tommen taking the head dive.
That one kind of surprised me that he did it. I
had a feeling he was going to do it because, think about it. Marjorie had such a hold on him.
I had a feeling he would, but I didn't know it would be right
yeah, I agree. I thought he was going to put his mommy down. Here's why I hated this sequence, okay? Wildfire. We've seen it in the past. We all know the story about the Mad King being I'm going to burn the whole city down. They've literally referenced it 8 times.
Yep.
Things people don't necessarily know about wildfire that just watch the TV show, it's uncontrollable. That's why it's so goddamn scary. It's not like a fire that you can just extinguish. It will burn and burn and burn till the city is completely demolished. So my biggest hatred of that scene is, let's put all of this wildfire underneath this one place and let's use it as C4 and just have a contained explosion and then poof, it's done. That was one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen.
It wasn't just done, because at the end of the episode when Jaime came home,
it was smothering.
It was still going. And here's the other thing that we should consider: it blew up there, but it's not like the city itself is built in a way that the fire is really going to spread.
But that's what wildfire does. Think about the Battle of Blackwater. It was burning on water. It will just spread. Anything is going to be set ablaze. And I think I hated that part. Like, it was cool. I'm not saying it wasn't cool. I get it. Like, a lot of you people are like, Kevin, shut up. That was awesome. But yeah, I agree. But I hate that about that scene. And my other thing is the whole ending to the Marjorie story. Goodbye. You know, pretty much the coolest character in King's Landing. And it's just, again, with the payoff. Think about Arya. Like, we spent all this time with the Faceless Men. And what was the payoff? Nothing.
Well, the payoff was, then we saw it during this episode, that she's now using her skills that she learned for that to finish off her list.
We'll get to that in a little bit, trust me. That also pissed me off. But just the whole Marjorie, like, she's been scheming this entire season. We really wanted to see how it was going to play out with, you know, a confrontation. But no, let's just blow her fucking up. And it was just, like you said, the easy way out. And I was just that part left me sick to my stomach, that Marjorie died in that way. Like, they went for the whole... Have you ever seen The Patriot?
Yeah.
With Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Remember how Heath Ledger meets a nice Southern girl, gets married, and then she's fucking burned alive in the church and can't get out? That's what they went for, other than the fact that I didn't care about it. I was just like, really? Really? We're gonna kill Marjorie off this way?
See,
really?
I feel like I can understand your point of view, but at the same time, in order for that to have as much of an impact as it did, like, Cersei destroyed almost all of her enemies, and if you think about it, basically destroyed them all. And like, yeah, they didn't resolve a storyline, but like, if we're thinking of this as if it was like real life, it's not like everybody's stories come to an end and then they die.
I disagree completely. She didn't... Yeah, she resolved all of her storylines and killed all of her enemies, but it was such an apparent... Oh, well, we need to wrap these up so we can purely transition to Cersei versus Daenerys. It was so apparent. So apparent. With the whole Dorne scene and everything, it's just... Everything that happens in King's Landing is now just setting up for Daenerys. Tell me she's not the main focus of the show. Nothing else matters in this show other than what Daenerys does, who Daenerys sleeps with, what Daenerys eats, who she gonna give a stupid speech to this week about how unstoppable she is. And she is. She's unstoppable. Nobody can touch her. Nobody. She has had, if anything, she has had speed bumps in the road, but it's been smooth sailing. People are going to argue with me with that, but truly, what losses has she had other than her baby and Drogo? I get that. But what's really prevented her? Nothing. They've just taken her out of her way.
Yep.
I don't... All right. So that was my biggest complaint. Just Marjorie, one of my favorite characters, just completely obliterated. And the Sparrows are dead. One thing I did want to mention that I didn't mention last time that pissed me off about Daenerys is, remember how the whole Sons of the Harpy thing was an entire seasonal conflict? Mm-hmm. But now it's just over because the fucking... I'm sorry to curse so much today, but I'm riled up because the Dothraki just rode in and just killed them all, and the whole mystery was who's leading the Sons of the Harpy. They're like, we don't care anymore. Time to get her to Westeros. It's just... Why are you wasting my time with introducing these storylines if you're not gonna resolve them in a interesting way? Just having the freaking Dothraki show up and just murder everybody in the city, and how are they not murdering slaves too? I don't know. They are kind of known as savages, but just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was one thing that did bother me, especially, okay, the Sons of the Harpy, and then the Masters, and then last episode they killed 2 of the Masters, and then it's just like, okay, now because we killed 2 of the Masters, we don't have any more problems.
I just thought that they were going to finally reveal that Daario Naharis was the leader in that one scene where she was like, you have to go away now. But no, just another way to write off a character, just like Jorah Mormont, just setting them off into the sunset, never to be heard from again. Goodbye. So those really irritated me. Now let's get to Arya. As soon as I saw what's-his-face, Frey, say, you're not one of mine, I knew it immediately at that point.
See, I was thinking, I didn't know that it was her. She honestly looked like a girl from Dorne, is what she looked like. And I thought it was going to be some way because, you know, they were working with the Lannisters, that this girl from Dorne was, you know, going to have an effect in that way.
It just irritates me that Arya has somehow gotten from Braavos all the way into the middle of the Riverlands into the Twins. Nothing stopping her. No obstacles. Nothing. If that was the case, why didn't she go and kill Cersei?
Well,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, we've known that Game of Thrones doesn't really have a sense of time for
that was one
some things. And another thing, speaking along those lines, that bothered me was, okay, we see the episode, we see the part of the episode in Dorne, and then coming out of nowhere is Varys.
Yeah.
And he's there, and then he's obviously talking to them, and then at the very last scene of the episode, he's on the ships.
This episode must have covered weeks or months. It's the only explanation. Unless she let him borrow a dragon. I don't know. I mean, I was thinking the same thing.
But it was a secret mission.
I was like, dude, it's Nightcrawler. You can freaking hop back and forth. Like, what the hell? But yeah, I mean, I didn't hate the Arya scene. I don't want you to think that I hated it, because I didn't. It was just so... All right, well, everything's gone full circle now. The good guys are winning. And tell me that the momentum right now isn't the good guys. They're shifting into momentum.
Definitely.
With the Starks gathering in the north, Arya getting her revenge.
And I said this at the end of in our review of last episode as well, is like, I didn't have a problem with the episode itself. I just had a lot of problem with the storylines, and they were just ending storylines, or that it was very on Game of Thrones fashion, to where it's just like, okay, here's your typical movie where the good guy wins in the end, and that's what they did last episode. That's what they did this episode.
Well, they did it with Cersei too, with the bad guy, because Cersei's always weaseled her way out of everything. You know what I mean? And one thing I will say is I do kind of like how the main characters don't get revenge. Think of Roose Bolton. He was killed by Ramsay. Nobody saw that coming. Like, he got what was coming to him, but not necessarily from, like, a Stark, which was cool. Yeah. I really enjoyed how they did that. So, we got probably... Do you want to talk about the whole Jon Snow thing? The King of the North? Like, when they did that, it was like deja vu. And I'm not saying I hated that. I loved that. That was an awesome scene. And they are milking that little girl for what she's worth. They introduced this badass little girl, and they're like making memes about her and stuff. And they knew what they were getting out of that girl. They're like, oh, we're gonna milk this for all it's worth.
Yep.
Giving speeches to old men.
No, I mean, I thought it was a cool scene. I mean, it didn't really surprise me, because it's just like, okay, like, once again, Jon Snow gets what he wants.
Yeah.
You know, same as Daenerys. Jon Snow gets what he wants, but. And I know that we've talked about this topic before, and I don't want to sound as if I'm sexist, but I did appreciate the fact that they actually had a man in a leadership role again.
Yeah.
In that way, I saw so many tweets after the episode, that, you know, was like almost a woman's, clean sweep, almost, 3 for 3 with the women, with Daenerys and Cersei, and, now... And
Sansa,
what could or would be Sansa, but I don't know. I mean, it wasn't something that I was expecting to happen any differently, but I did appreciate the fact that they did unite under Jon Snow.
I get what you're saying. I mean, to be honest, like, this whole show has been taking weak, cowardly women and turning them into strong leaders, which is cool and everything, but when you take every single man that's in power out of power, every single one that has had any position of power, pretty much, and replace them with one, I get it.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Jon Snow, probably the biggest reveal in Game of Thrones history, we finally see the conclusion of Tower of Joy, and she whispers in his ear, blah, 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 blah. That's what she sounded like to me. And then it immediately cuts to Jon Snow.
Yeah.
So we finally realize that Jon Snow, this has been a fan theory for 20 years.
RNL equals J.
Yeah. We finally realized, they didn't officially announce that, but we finally realized that Lyanna Stark is his mother. They didn't reveal the father yet. I mean, we all know who he is. He's a goddamn Targaryen.
Yeah.
He's Rhaegar Targaryen's son. But it's kind of cool to finally get that revealed. And you would think that would be a good way to end the show, right? Nope. Let's
end it with Daenerys again.
Let's just blow right by it, and let's go back and do more Dany scenes. Woo woo! Another season with her final shot as Daenerys. I think there's only been one season where it hasn't been, and it's last season when Jon Snow died.
That did make me mad too, especially because there's not like that scene had anything to do with the next, and that easily could have been the start of the next season.
They could have done it early in the episode. It didn't matter. But nope, everything's got to be Dany. Dany. And the show lovers fucking love Dany. So, like Kevin, she's the best character. And all the book readers.
I will say,
the book readers fucking hate her.
The front of those ships looked really cool.
How do they have time to do that? That's what I want to know. What are you making these Unsullied do? Overall, again, I don't want you to think that I hated the episode. It was a very strong finale. It did progress a lot of storylines, but my issue is that every character now is either focused on Jon Snow or Daenerys. There's nothing left. There are no more storylines.
Well, there's no people left.
And my biggest complaint is they did nothing with the White Walkers. Instead, they showed us Sam Tarly looking at a library. Nothing with the White Walkers. Stop teasing. Winter's coming, winter's coming, winter's here. Do something with it. I love how they ended all these politics storylines, which the show's about, but the whole thing has been, well, the impending threat is going to make none of that matter. So what they've done is they've finished all these storylines and just created more political storylines now. And it's just like, enough's enough. There are 13 episodes left.
Well, I think that's kind of the deal, though, is that it's almost like we're relating it to life. That there's these things outside of our immediate life that should deserve a lot of attention, but we get so caught up in the immediate and in the now that we don't really look as to what's coming. And I think that's kind of just like an overarching storyline or theme within the show.
But enough is enough. Like, it needs to take ground. Like, I'm
the
nervous.
White Raven did show up, and winter is here.
But they've announced that winter's here numerous times. There's an episode like 2 seasons ago where Pycelle is like, well, I'd like to officially announce that the great summer has ended. And it's like, all right, well, 2 seasons later, now we get officially notified. It's cool and everything, but I'm nervous that they're gonna rush the White Walkers. Everything this entire show has been building to.
Well, how many episodes are left now?
13. 7 next. They should just fucking do 13 episodes in one season.
Yeah.
There's 7 next year, and then the year after that, there's 6. They're gonna do just the 6. Tell me they're not gonna do just the 6. That's going to be the White Walker, the Night King confrontation. Everything else is going to be Daenerys taking over, Daenerys taking over. And if she doesn't fall at the end of this series, if she doesn't die, and she actually ends up on the Iron Throne, it's going to honestly, and I'm not just saying this to make a dramatic impact, it's going to honestly change my opinion of this show drastically. You can't tell me it's just going to be a feel-good story of this little girl overcoming every single obstacle in her way.
Without challenge.
Without challenge, and just inevitably. She needs to be sacrificed in some way in order to overcome the threat. I'm fine with Jon Snow surviving, but there's no way Dany can. Because what's ever been done to her other than season 1, I get it. She had a lot of bad stuff done to her season 1. I get that. Mm-hmm. But after that, when she actually decided she was going to rule, what's been done to her? She's gotten dirty. She's gotten stripped naked. That stuff's bad, but has she taken any physical damage? Slapped, maybe? No. She's just been inconvenienced a few times. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Well,
she's had people threaten her and people attack her, but it's always resolved that.
And every single one of those characters are not dead. All right, well, that's our official review of Game of Thrones. I loved it. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like it. I don't want people to think I didn't. But it's kind of boring if we just come on here and just say, oh, it's the greatest episode ever. So we did have to find some things wrong with it. Now, if you're sitting here being like, I'm sad it's over, you don't watch TV right. I hate people who are like complaining and be like, is it next year already? No, it was 10 episodes. It kicked ass. You know, what do you want? Do you want just Game of Thrones to go on forever? Then you're oversaturated and the episodes start to suck. So stop bitching about it being, is it next season yet? Take some time off, take the 10 hours of content you just got, and enjoy it, my friends. Enjoy it. Any last words, Steve?
No, as you said, I thought it was overall a good finale to the season. There's a lot of characters dead, and a fresh start for next season. They pretty much wrapped everything up.
Still no ghost sightings since like the second episode. Have you ever noticed that they've like never put a dire wolf and a dragon in the same episode? Just saying. All right, make sure you check out the YouTube, the Facebook. We'll be back. Maybe Walking Dead, maybe Flash. Make sure to check out our TV reviews coming up in the fall.